Welcome to the Blue Room. This is the weekly show. I am Matt Jones this week, stepping in for Warren Doyle, who's going to be recording something a bit later on in the week. But yeah, delighted to be joined to talk all things toffees this week by Jack Dowden. Jack, how are you, mate?
Yeah, good. Thanks very much. That's had a few days in the Lake District, so yeah, feeling good.
And also Adam Sutton joins us. Adam, how are you, mate?
I'm good. No trips to the Lake District, but yeah, other than that, I think I'm actually going on Sunday, actually. So looking forward to it. A well-earned rest from work, Everton maybe. So
well, yeah. I'm going the week after next, so between three of
wow.
us, we've got all covered this 3 weeks. So yeah,
keeping the economy of the Lake District going, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the tourist board are listening and want to do a sponsorship deal. Like we're all for that. But maybe by the time I get back, if Everton haven't won a game, might try to refocus the podcast. But yeah, if you watch us on YouTube, do hit like, do hit subscribe. We've got loads of stuff on the Blue Room at the moment, including Blue Monday, Byline, Mailbag, and your instant reactions to the games as well. Do hit like, do hit subscribe. If you want to get notified whenever we put a show up, and do leave us a comment on anything we're talking about today and get your thoughts in on anything going on the team at the moment. It'd be great to hear what people have got to say. We are going to talk about Spurs, obviously, and we'll talk about Sunderland as well. But Jack, you mentioned it just before we started. You're saying, obviously, you're planning a nice serene drive up to the lakes and a few days of quiet time. And then coming out to the ground on Sunday, you were greeted by happy hardcore music in the fan plaza. I mean, I left at 2-0 and was just kind of in a bit of a grump, and it took me a few seconds to realise what was going on. But even by Everton's standards, a bit weird, that, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think they'd let us know that something was going to go on afterwards to try and keep us in the ground until like 8 o'clock or whatever. But I think there was an opportunity for them probably to reflect when the third goal went in that maybe a party plaza wasn't really the right way to go on this occasion. Overall, I'm all for it. I think it's got a good idea behind it and good intentions to try and drive a bit of retention of footfall in the plaza and keep people there. But yeah, coming out on a rainy, cold October night, knowing that I've got a 2-hour drive ahead of me, we've just been thumped at home for the first time. I probably could have done without the house music, to be honest.
I mean, I would. It's something that I'm, probably a bit too old for now, to be honest, Adam, in regards to that kind of thing. But I think, as Jack was saying there, if you're going to pick a day and time and result and weather conditions, I mean, Sunday was the worst possible opportunity trying to. I mean, what was the? Can you think of any possible explanation for that aside from Everton hired a cop-out DJ and just decided to have a bit of a laugh with it?
Yeah, I can't think of any explanation really. I feel like the best way to keep fans in the fan plaza is probably winning games, isn't it? So they failed in the first attempt of keeping the retention levels up, and at the same time, the song I heard on someone's video, I didn't actually hear it, or I walked through after the game, so it must have been playing, and obviously I was just that gutted that I haven't realised what's actually going on. So I've tried to rush towards the Dock Road and get home instead of getting caught in all the traffic or all the nonsense of hardcore music being played. But Saturday afternoon, 12:30 kickoff. You're out on a good run and the sun's shining, maybe. But yeah, as you both just alluded to, Sunday evening just being leathered 3-0 at home. It's raining, and they've gone for that genre as well, which is a bit of a strange one. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe next time.
Yeah. There's something beautifully Everton about it, though, isn't there?
Yeah, it was just so out of place. Like,
if you're going to miss the mark, do it well.
I mean, did some Spurs fans stay and enjoy it?
It was raining as well at the time.
Yeah,
I think when I walked past that sort of bar area, there was like, I don't know, 10, if I'm being generous, sort of people waiting for a drink. But it was raining and people weren't generally in the mood. And I'd imagine Spurs fans didn't really know what was going on anyway. They just wanted to get home somehow. So I think the intentions are good, but I think it was the wrong opportunity.
Yeah, I'm sure someone, maybe this could have been one for Paddy, this actually, to get onto the club and ask him, what on earth is going on.
Do a long piece on the party plaza.
maybe we should have given Everton the right to reply here in regards to that, because it was so bizarre. But yeah, new ground, new things, but was certainly not expecting that. It was a Fatboy Slim remix that was playing "Praise You" when I came out, and I mean, I did see someone posted as well that they played "I Need a Miracle" at half time, which was obviously, I mean, says a lot, in there about what the position the team is in at that point as well. But I suppose that does take us on to the football, really. And Adam, just in general, really, like it was only 2 games ago that we played Crystal Palace, and they were on an amazing unbeaten run, and we scored a last minute goal, and everyone felt so upbeat and happy about things. And 2 games later, 3 weeks later, it feels like everyone's down in the dumps again. I mean, is it a case simply of maybe we shouldn't have got quite as high after Palace, and we shouldn't be quite so low now, or are you a little bit more worried about the trajectory the team's kind of on at the moment, with not many goals in the team and obviously sitting 14th in the table?
I'm not as worried as many Evertonians I've seen or spoken to, really. I think the way I judge it is how I feel at the start of the game, at half-time, and leaving the ground, really. And on Sunday, again, maybe I'm alone in this opinion, but I didn't feel at any point Everton were second best in the game. I think that it's such a far cry from the Everton sides I've watched over the last 3 or 4 years that, again, any team can get beat 3-0 at home and almost feel like, how's that happened? For me, it's never a 3-0 game. I know that obviously it is on the score sheet, but the way in which Everton are playing and are trying to play, I've got a lot of comfort in, really. And I do agree to a certain extent around the highs and lows of Palace and then City and Spurs. But in those 3 games, have we done anything different against Palace than we have against City and Tottenham? I think the main difference is, and I know Palace were right up there at that point, but I think the only difference is you just come up against teams that can probably put you to bed, and City did, and could have had more, and obviously Spurs did as well. But yeah, in short, I'm not worried about Everton. I'm not worried about getting up on a Sunday afternoon to go and watch them. It was something that I enjoyed, and if anyone knows me, I'm the worst Evertonian in the world sometimes, really, when it comes to actually taking time out of my day to watch them. But yeah, I left that ground and thought, I can see something there, I can feel something there. And again, it's just about putting the ball on the back of the net, which is, of course, the hardest thing in football to do. But at the same time, it feels like the foundations are there for us to have a good season, and good being maybe around that mid-table point of the league. And will we settle for that? Definitely. Are people looking at us now in 14th, worrying? Obviously. But again, it's all about putting a couple of games together and going on a bit of a run. And listen, we could beat Sunderland, beat Fulham. The next thing you know, you're back in 8th and it's all sunshine and rainbows, isn't it? So yeah, I'm not feeling too downbeat, but of course it's never nice losing. But that first loss at Bramley-Moore was always going to come, wasn't it?
And the league's so tight at the moment that you're 1 win away from being in European places. I think if we'd won on Sunday, we would have been 1 point behind Liverpool, for example. So is it doom and gloom? No, it's not. But it does look like that, and I can understand it. But I agree with Adam. I don't think there was a point on Sunday where I felt we were out-battled, or that they were noticeably and markedly the better team. I think it was a case of them taking their chances when they had them, and us having one of those days where they could have gone home and packed up, and us still trying to score, and it just wouldn't go in the back of the net. If you look at the number of chances that we had with Beto's bicycle kick, unbelievable bicycle kick, and we had Grealish should have scored early on. All of that sort of stuff is all ifs and buts, but there's enough there to think that this team is more than capable of getting higher up that league. And yeah, two wins, 4 points for the next 2 games, for example, and you're probably up and around the top half again.
Yeah, I'm sort of with you lads in that regard. Like, I think it always felt like if we could get one in the second half, that it was like the point was potentially going to be there for us. But obviously, through a variety of different things, be it Vicario making great saves and something I only saw back actually on Tuesday, which I'd forgot at the time. I was furious about in the stadium at the time, was the Kudus tackle on Garnegay, which I was convinced was a penalty, and seeing it back, I was like, oh yeah, I totally forgot that happened. But I know you want to talk about the referee a little bit later on, Jack, and we will get onto that. But like I think with both what you said in mind in regards to trying to keep perspective, and there's still things that are going on in this team that are quite good, if not brilliant. There seems to have been, Adam, like a lot of talk, online and in the media, well, Everton-centric media, the last few days about changes. And I suppose if you look at that side that played on Sunday, it's felt very familiar, hasn't it? Over the course of the first few games, you kind of know where everyone's going to be lining up. The three behind the centre forward himself now in Beto. Do you think that's something that Moyes should continue persisting with? Because we've seen obviously glimpses of it working against Brighton, against Wolves, against Palace. Even in the second half against Liverpool, it seems to be clicking into gear. Or is it one of those where, and I think I'm more in this category at the moment, certainly after watching the second half against Palace, where you get someone like Alcaraz in there, you get someone like Irabunum or Roll, who obviously didn't play against Palace, but can offer that kind of more direct play. Feels like maybe just a little different ingredient in there would help us at the moment, because the three lads who are very technical, very talented, but all like to play in similar sort of ways. I don't know, maybe we're a little bit too one-dimensional in that area of the pitch at the moment.
Yeah, it feels like we've gone from one extreme to the other, really, doesn't it, in terms of how we play? If you think back to Calvert-Lewin, Abdoulaye Doucouré, Dwight McNeil style, where it is get it long into the box, win your first and second balls and try and make something happen from there. We've actually gone to the total polar opposite, haven't we, in terms of there's too many lads that want to get on the ball and pass and keep it and slow down the attack and build. And I get it. And that's, 99% of fans want to see that happening. But I do agree that there is some slight changes you can make, maybe not to a starting 11, but maybe earlier on in a game, or when something is or isn't going your way. It doesn't mean you have to change it or not, really. It's all about being proactive, I think. And that three and behind the forwards is brilliant, and possibly the best three we've seen in a long, long time in terms of pure ability. But there's nothing more satisfying than having someone in that starting 11 that can just go and bully a defender and win a header, or running behind the forward. And Keenan Dewsbury Hall definitely isn't that type of player. The problem for me, Matt, is that I think the changes that need to be made can't be made without a transfer window. And I think it's the two fullbacks and a number 9. I say two fullbacks. I feel like Jake O'Brien is doing well. But if you want to have more attacking threat, if you want to almost allow Dewsbury Hall and Njai and Grealish to be further up the pitch so they can affect it in the box instead of almost getting it deep and trying to create something for a sole striker. I've said it so many times that a lot of the teams and the most effective teams in this league, the most productive players are the left back and the right back. And it's just the total opposite for Everton, isn't it? And Vitaly Mykolenko was so bad on Sunday, as in like, I tweeted it once. I don't tweet very often anymore. I tweeted saying there's lads in the counties better than him. And he kind of made me eat my words a couple of seasons ago. But I think there actually might be lads in the counties better than him, especially in an attacking sense. There was one late on in the second half where he somehow right wing and just passes the ball to their player. And I just went like, I don't get angry at football matches because I think it's cringy sometimes. But I just thought to myself, that's where we're going to struggle to progress when we've got Jake O'Brien, who's a great defender. I think he's been really effective for us, and he's almost a square peg in a round hole that's been fitted somehow. But the changes that need to be made will either come in January or next summer, really. And can we cope without them? Possibly. Or, as what maybe you're alluding to, Matt, is can we try something a little bit different with the lads that we do have? And I think Alcaraz and Merlin Roll are probably the top of that list for me. I think he's been really impressive when he's come on. Merlin Roll, I want to see more of. And I think David Moyes sounds like he's a big fan of him. The problem is that Charlie Alcaraz, it feels like he's not a big fan of him, which is strange because he's the type of player that can go win you a game out of nothing. We seem to always score goals out of nothing before this team was brought together. And we can always score goals by doing something. But if we're not scoring goals by doing something that we've worked on, why not bring something a little bit different to the table? And I think Charlie Alcaraz is perfect for that. So, yeah, we'll see. I think something definitely does need to change, and hopefully David Moyes realises that too.
Just to go on to Mykolenko, and when you were talking there, Adam, it sort of made me remember something from last week. And I messaged a friend of the show, Jake Mills, at the time. We put out a clip on Everton put out a clip on Instagram of some drills that they were doing or whatever, and Mykolenko added it to his story. And I messaged Jake and I was like, does he think that this is what good defending looks like? He's getting absolutely rinsed, and he sort of does this last minute ditch tackle to get knock the ball out of their rondo or whatever they're doing. But I was like, this is not a good example of being a Premier League defender. So I'm fully on board there. I think he's been found out quite quickly, and actually this is the point where if there's still any value to him to be put on some sort of list and distributed so people think that they're getting a Premier League defender when they're not, and trying to sort of recoup some of that outlay. In regards to sort of the shape of the team, I think, and I was thinking about this earlier, and I think we're suffering from a Decore hangover, and I think there's still enough bodies in that team that remember that there was a fella sort of running around like a lunatic for X amount of minutes each game, and that's missing. I think, and if you cast your mind back, 4 or 5 years ago, I think we were probably in a similar position when Sigurdsson came out of the team as well, in that there wasn't that sort of link-up midfielder who would be accused of being lazy or whatever, but actually there was clearly a sort of Gylfi-shaped hole in our midfield a lot of the time. I see that again, and that link-up play with whoever's in that sort of number 9 slot at that moment just isn't there. The most natural fit for me there would be Alcaraz. I think he's that player that can sort of drag forward, bring the ball forward. He's got a bit of excitement in him. Maybe he's not Moyes' complete cup of tea, but actually round holes for round pegs, or whatever what they're saying is, to just try and get the team ticking over. I also agree with Adam in that I like what I've seen from Roll. I think actually he made a bit of an impact when he came on the other day, and maybe there's an option there, but I haven't seen enough of him to sort of be able to go, this is actually going to be a good position for him to sort of sit in that 8 or 10 role or whatever. But actually, are we able to use him a little bit more? Because in not very long, we're going to start losing Ghana in 6 weeks, maybe. I don't know when their sort of camp starts or whatever. So we need to start planning now. And we've got an international break as well. So how do we give these people enough games to make sure that they're up and running at the time that we need them throughout December and January?
The one that I have thought long and hard about, really, which is obviously trying to get 11 lads on the pitch, and there's probably 3 or 4 of them. I think Dewsbury Hall's probably the top of that list, really, where he's almost been brought in. I imagine he's been told he's going to be the main man in that number 10. And then you start to look around and think, well, in my opinion, I don't think James Garner can be dropped at the moment. I think Idrissa Gueye is, of course, invaluable to us in the way we want to play. Then you've got Njai, who's by far and away the best player we've got technically, and I just think suits us so much. And then the other guy's Jack Grealish, really. And David Moyes has got a massive headache. And does Idrissa Gueye go into AFCON solve that headache to a certain extent, as much as you might not want it to? Can you start to look at maybe playing an Alcaraz and Dewsbury Hall a little bit deeper, or bringing Merlin Roll in and allowing Dewsbury Hall and him to maybe switch at times so we can go beyond the number 9 and break lines, etc. So I just feel at the moment, unless he moves James Garner to right back and drops Jake O'Brien, or moves him to left back and drops Mykolenko, he seems to, and I hate going back to this period of Everton, we seem to kind of have that Sandro, Rooney, Sigurdsson situation where you're trying to get all these players in that are going to affect your team positively, but it's massively about balance, isn't it? And you can't just play them all and hope for the best. So, yeah, we'll have to see. I think we've got enough games in the coming months to be able to try a few different things. I just hope David Moyes realises that. But again, knowing David Moyes as an Everton manager, he kind of wants to get his 11 and stick with it a lot of the time. And yeah, it's about maybe trying to adapt to where each player is at any given time, and actually, as Jack says, preparing for the losses of Gay and Jai, and hopefully getting that in early so something starts to click.
Yeah, the midfield one's like a bit frustrating for me because I think, you know, you've both sort of touched on the fullbacks there, and like, to an extent, there's not loads we can do there. Like Mikalenko is the left back, isn't he, at the moment? So obviously, Asnew's come in, but for whatever reason, he's not sort of been fancied. I think Moyes said he was always going to be a developmental player. Like, that's fine. Right back, you've got O'Brien, Patterson, who's injured and out of favour, and Coleman, who, you know, is sort of semi-retired in that regard. So I think it's it's tricky for me, because I think I just looked at Palace and the way in which the game changed in the second half, and like, I appreciate we did all right in the first half on Sunday, but you know, the lad who came on for 45 minutes and changed that game, I know there's a bit of horses for courses in every match, but Alcaraz came on and changed that game, got 4 minutes at the end. Irabunu came on with 20 minutes to go and gave us another bit of impetus. You know, to be honest, I didn't even know he was in the squad on Sunday. I'm assuming he was on the bench at the weekend, but you know, didn't get on the pitch. So like that's the one area of the pitch really which you look at and go, we've actually got options there who are all right and have impacted games in a positive way recently. And he kind of, I don't know, Jack, he's kind of chose to ignore the two lads who were the kind of catalysts to the last big win, and like that kind of doesn't really make sense to me.
Maybe it's to do with what we were saying right at the start, in that actually he felt it was the 11 players on the pitch were doing a decent job and actually doing things to his instruction for that particular game, and that horses for courses type thing, and actually looking at the bench, whereas their Palace had Wharton controlling the game a little bit more and actually needing to put someone on him a little bit more and take over that sort of leadership from on the ball that Palace were holding. We didn't really see that with Tottenham, maybe. I'm just trying to sort of play devil's advocate, because I also have, you know, enough memories of David Moyes and frustrations with his use of subs and all of that down the years, that actually I think we've got X amount of £1 million worth of players sat on the bench that aren't getting any minutes at all at the moment. And I'm always intrigued by what sort of conversations happen on a day-to-day basis, like at Finch Farm, around, you know, do these players know that they're not going to play? Do they know that they might get 3 or 4 minutes? Do they know that their role is a substitute at the moment? That sort of thing. And actually, what does that say to the player? You know, we're hearing sort of murmurs that he might start loaning a few players out in January to try and give them some minutes and things like that. But we've got quite a small squad anyway. So you start thinking, well, do we have enough capacity within the squad to be able to do that? And actually, if these players are good enough to play elsewhere, particularly in a top league in Europe, why are they not pushing for extra minutes in the Premier League? It's an odd one, which I can't ever really sort of put my finger on. But yeah, as I say, if I'm playing devil's advocate, I think he felt that we were a match for them on Sunday, so he didn't feel that there was enough on the bench that would cause a positive reaction, maybe.
Yeah, like I think that's a logical way of looking at it. But like I'm just a bit surprised by the changes, and just sort of to labour this point a little bit longer, Adam, about the bench and the subs. You know, Jack's right there. You know, if you look at the bench at the weekend, you've got Barry, who was 27 million, obviously came on a bit before Alcaraz, around 15 minutes or so to go. And you've got Tyler Diblin, who barely got a sniff. You've obviously already mentioned Asnu, seems like he's nowhere near it. So already there, you're looking at about £80 million worth of lads, and that's not even factoring in Alcaraz, who cost about 15 million. So there's a lot of players there who signed in the summer who, you know, obviously all kind of in different situations. But for a team like us to have spent that much money on players that are and not in the starting 11. And I appreciate there's developmental stages and you've got to take your time a little bit with younger players, which all of them are. Like, is that a sign of a bit muddled up recruitment? Do you think that, and especially when you look at other parts of the team, as you mentioned there about the fullback situation, where effectively haven't got a right back and we've only got one senior left back. It's a bit of a weird one, isn't it, to have that much talent that only joined last summer, sat on the bench, not really getting any minutes?
Muddled is definitely the right word, because I don't think it's bad recruitment, because I do think that Tyler Dibbling and Thierry Barry and Charlie Alcaraz are good players and will be a lot better in seasons to come. So I think Everton have got it right by getting those players in, but muddled in terms of priorities. I totally agree, because I think Tyler Dibbling, they wanted him and believe that he's going to be a future star. I think the Merlin Roll one is probably, can we get him? Yes. The Alcaraz one was, is he on the cheap? Yes. And then the Thierry Barry one is that they wanted him to come in and be the starting 9, but yeah, both of them are trying to get dropped by the looks of it. So that it was never going to happen in one window. And I think we're all in agreement with that yeah, we can't fix everything in a summer period. But at the same time, priorities wise, the Kenny Tete example is that they've gone for people. There'll obviously be a lot more targets that we didn't hear of that they went for. And have they almost gone, well, I'm not paying that, or I'm not giving him that contract, or I'm not willing to take a risk on a certain player. And you see with Asnu that they kind of have taken a risk, in my opinion. And now they're starting to say he's a developmental player. But if he's needing developing, then what does Vitaly Mikalenko need? Because surely he offers something different, at least. Whether or not it's better, I don't know. So yeah, there is a lot of talent on the bench. I think, again, playing devil's advocate to a certain extent, find me a Premier League side that probably doesn't have 60, 80 million's worth of talent on the bench nowadays, because you can't sign one player for less than 30, 40 million if they've scored one Premier League goal. So never mind trying to get one who's got 10, 15. And that's just where Everton are at, I think. I think they're not beggars can't be choosers, because, as I said, those players are definitely talented and will become either good players or good assets or both. But it's just about trying to find a balance between the players that you've brought in over the summer. And then the flip side of that is you look at Iliman Ndiaye, Kiernan Dewsbury Hall and Jack Grealish. You're probably talking £200 million worth of talent there. So if you're looking at both sides of things, then David Moyes thinks, well, I think he's better than him. I think he's going to bring more than him. So that may be where his mind's at. But does that mean that you can drop a Dewsbury Hall a little bit deeper and bring a Drissagay off and go for it in these types of games, or bring Merlin Roll on for James Garner and go a little bit more direct? And yeah, as we've said, these are the questions that David Moyes needs to answer. But we're not far off, I don't think. I feel like, as Jack alluded to before, 14th in the table looks scary, but at the same time, we could be here in 3 or 4 weeks going, Dibbling starting because it's kind of a free hit against someone, or we've won 2 and drawn 1. So why don't we try something a little bit different, or bring someone on earlier, or start Alcaraz and give Dewsbury Hall a rest? But I feel like we're just in a period of time at the moment where the players that brought in, who go straight to the starting 11, are needing to play, and those who are maybe younger, who need a little bit more development, David Moyes obviously isn't willing to take the risk on them.
No, that is sensible. It's just, it's just weird for us to have so much money sat on the bench after so many years of being skins. And like, I've just been like thinking then of like, if we could give one of those players back to potentially get a full back in, I don't know which one it would be necessarily, because like I'm still relatively happy with all the signings, really. Like, they all look, I think they're all could eventually be good players for us. They're all going to need developing, obviously, but it's one of those, like you said, we're not going to be able to do it all in one summer. So perhaps it's just a bit of short-term pain. But certainly someone like Dibbling, who cost that a lot of money, I think I'd like to see a bit more of him. And then obviously Alcaraz as well, as we mentioned. But just before we move on to quickly talk about Sunderland, before we wrap up, Jack, I said you wanted to talk about the referee. You said you were preparing a Craig Pawson rant on your way back now from the lakes. I mean, what was it that particularly irked you about Sunday? Because to be honest, the goal that we got disallowed, like I'm kind of fine with. I kind of get why it was disallowed. I obviously had a bit of an argument with Keith on post-match. He obviously thought it shouldn't. Was it that annoyed you, or was it just Pawson's sort of aura in general?
Right, okay. He lost control of the game after about 6 or 7 minutes. And he's an established referee. He's reffed us now for 31 matches. Of those 31 games, we've won 6. Now, I get that's not a benchmark because we've been rubbish for a lot of that time. I get that. And, refs don't dictate the result, allegedly. But there's got to be something where people are looking at that and going, that's very low. And when you've got sort of outside voices like Neil Warnock saying he's aware of Pawson having something against Everton, you've got Mark Housey and Keith Hackett saying that's absolutely wrong, the decision. You've got a guy on VAR, Stuart Atwell. We've got history with him. How he's still a referee after? Do you remember his first ever game where the ball hit the side netting and he awarded a goal?
Atwell, yeah.
Like that should have been struck off straight away. No, sorry, this isn't for you, mate. So we've got to a point where officiating as a whole is, for a multi-billion-pound business, is at its lowest. When we're looking back nostalgically at people like Hackett, Halsey, Pohl, Clattenburg, all of that sort of people, where you used to go, actually, whether I like them or not, they could manage a game. And you've got people like him who just can't control Everton versus Spurs, that don't really have much beef, really. There's no real sort of issue there, or it's not like a derby or something like that. And he's losing control of the game, making a decision. Whether you think it was right or wrong, I still don't see how they've chalked that goal off. I can't see it. I've tried to step away from it from a blue tinted glasses and all that sort of stuff, but the basic rules of the game suggest that it was a goal. The fact that there was a 5-minute period where someone with a screen was doing lines and all of that nonsense, and then he still had to go and check it, suggests that the people looking at the screens and the guy on the field didn't really understand it either, and they've gone with the defender rather than the attacker. The fact it was ruled off for offside, when it really, if anything, it was an infringement rather than, if anything, if that's what they're saying, than an offside, again suggests that there was enough grey for them to say, actually, we're going to have to go with the attacker on this. And then you just go, all right, he's been rubbish, but let's hope that he's consistently rubbish throughout the whole game. No, he's not. He's consistently inconsistent. So you've got the situation with Ghana. Now I'm in the upper. My calves look like Jack Grealish because I have to walk those steps. I'm quite far away, but I could see that was a penalty, and he was much closer than me. The push on Jordan Pickford, if you're going to be really finicky about the laws of the game, well, that's a foul. So that second goal doesn't stand. Booking Grealish, who's just been fouled, it all adds up to something. There's something. I'm not going to put a tin hat on here, the tinfoil hat here, but there's something not right with that fella in our club, and it needs to be looked into in more depth. And for a period of time, he should be taken out of officiating our games, but we don't have as a club, we don't have the balls to step up to against the PGMOL or whoever and go, we're not happy with this. Other clubs would. Other clubs absolutely would be on their case, and that guy would never referee those games again. But Moyes, for me, conceding that there wasn't enough of a push on Pickford, there wasn't the reason the goal was chalked off was correct, is that what's wrong really with the club as a whole is that we don't fight our corner enough in those sorts of things. The Ghana penalty is a great example. You look at like a Liverpool or a United or a City, they've got 11 players around that ref, and he's giving that penalty. Grealish was probably the only cute one who sort of was really in his face. because that's the way he's been brought up and all of that sort of stuff. But the rest of that team, Tarkowski, all of those senior players should have been in that rest face, making him look at that screen or whatever he needed to do to go, yeah, that was definitely a penalty.
Yeah, that one was weird, and I think there were a few just like little moments between the big decisions, if you will. Like there's one where I can't remember which Tottenham player it was, like took nearly a minute to take a throw in, then just walked onto the pitch with the ball, and then he let them do it again. It was a bit like, what on earth's going on there? But I mean, what did you think of those decisions, Adam? Like, I get what Jack's saying in regards to like the first one and the offside. I think like before VAR, like that's just a goal, isn't it? Because the header's going in and he's not saving it. But again, I do kind of get why it was disallowed. I think technically you could give a foul on Pickford for that other one, but again, like I'm not furious about it necessarily. Like if that gone in our favour, I wouldn't be, too bothered really. Did he annoy you as much as he's annoyed Jack, the referee, on Sunday?
No, I don't think he annoyed me as much as Jack, because Jack seems really annoyed by him. But whether it's an infringement, whether it's offside, I think he's affecting the play in Jai as much as I hate to say it. And he's almost like leaning into the back of the keeper. And yeah, he might get nowhere near that header. I don't think he is. But unfortunately, they aren't going to see it as that, are they? They're going to look for a way of saying that he's in an offside position and he's infringing the keeper, whatever it may be. But I didn't see Njai even stood there. Obviously 4'9" anyway, and the keeper's 6'8". So as much as it pains me to say it, I saw like a still of it on my phone in the ground, and I thought like, why are you there? Why is he stood there anyway? And it's obviously he's been put on the keeper to try and put him off, and he's done that. But the other one is, why hasn't they got a freaking player on the post? Because then he wouldn't have been offside then, would he? So yeah, I think if that goal goes in, it's a totally different game, and I want it to have counted. But again, I can see why. As much as I agree that the officiating is terrible on the whole, the Pickford push I'm not having. Like, I just think he needs to be stronger there, and I'm actually more upset at the defending twice. And I sit in the lower south, but I'm on like the back row, so I almost feel like I'm on top of the corners when I'm watching the game, really. And twice you just watch. Or for the second one, you watch Van der Ven just almost like run off the pitch in the goal. And because they've gone zonal, Jake O'Brien's almost like, well, I've got to watch him go there. And he just goes and stands on the keeper. And if my keeper's getting done like that, when he can literally put his arms in the air and catch the ball, like a little nudge on him, then if that goal got disallowed against Everton, we'd all be an absolute outrage, I'm sure. And then the one that we definitely do agree on is that the Kudus one on Idrissa Gueye is mad. Like, if it's half a metre to the left-hand side of the box, he gives a free kick, doesn't he? Like, again, that's where the VAR is so annoying, because they check things that are just blatantly obvious, and they don't check things because the grey area is too big, really, and they don't want to spend, like, it seems like they don't want to spend minutes and minutes looking at something to then carry or stay with the on-field decision. You don't have to stop the game, do you, really? But then again, I feel like sometimes they're reluctant to do that, like run it on. Someone might score, someone might get a penalty, and then they pull it back for something a minute or so earlier. But what I definitely do agree with is that we are too nice when it comes to appealing for decisions. Like, I play a very low level of football, and people must think I'm annoying because I'm screaming at refs and running up to refs and finding myself booked most weeks, because you can influence them. And if he gives the pen, it's definitely not getting overturned, is it? And I feel like that's where we can always be a bit cuter, a bit more snidey. That in those positions when you need a goal, and it seems like you're not going to break them down because the defenders are heading everything away and things aren't dropping for you, then you've got to take an inch and make it into a metre, haven't you, really? And see if you can get the referee, the crowd to... Because if the players run round him, the crowd go ballistic.
Vicario did it, didn't he, for that first goal? Like, he was like, went straight up and like made a big fuss over it.
Yeah. And again, whether Vicario believed or didn't believe that he was offside or had been infringed, at least he's put it in the ref's head. If they all stand there like that, they might not even check it. So again, it's meant to be black or white with VAR, but the actual human being who's meant to be refereeing the game, if you can influence his decision, then they're very rarely going to go against it, are they? Until there is something that's clear and obvious. But the clear and obvious mistake was that Idrissa Gueye was 6 foot in the air and has been shoulder barged and done a backflip, and the referee seems to think that was a legal tackle. So yeah, I feel like out the three, that's the one that I'm really, really upset about more than, again, a few things that you'd love to have, but I can't agree with Jack as much as I'd want to.
I'll take 1 out of 3.
That'll do.
At least I'm not fully delusional. I'm only 66% delusional.
I don't think. You know what we'll say is I don't think any of this is delusion, because this is what it's created, isn't it? It's actually meant to take away people disagreeing on situations and decisions, but it's just created more, because we're not arguing over the referee to a certain extent. We're arguing over the referee and 3 other lads who have now been brought in. And again, I don't want to ramble on about it, but there's so many times over the years when I was growing up as an Evertonian, I remember, like, I think I've mentioned this on the Blue Room before, like a Tony Hibbert cross that the defender's like slid along the floor and it's hit literally his face, and the crowd has gone mad and the ref's just pointed and given a penalty. And like, I just think you'd hate it to get given against you, but they do even up and you do get absolute shockers. And again, I'm in such a rock and a hard place, really, with I feel like it can be right, but until it is right, I don't want it.
I absolutely hate it. Like, and I think Mo's had a bit of a rant about it on Sunday, and like I sort of put on Twitter, like, during the game, like, it's just such a bad experience in the ground. Like, as soon as like Vicario or any player appeals when you score a goal against them, you stop immediately. And like you live for that one little moment every week where you see your team essentially score a goal and you can just sort of, have 5 seconds of just uninterrupted, unpunctured joy. And it's gone now. Like, as soon as it went to the screen, so as soon as it started getting through the process, like on Sunday, like, it just went for a piss, like, because I thought, you know what, like, the queues are massive in the South Stand, first and foremost, so, good opportunity to beat the queue. But secondly, I thought, like, even if this gets given now, like, it's nice we've scored a goal, but like that moment's gone, hasn't it? It's all like a bit hollow and a bit sort of contrived at that point then, because they've taken it away from you. And like, I appreciate, like, there's maybe for the people who watching at home or watching around the world, like, it's maybe a bit more important to get the decision right in inverted commas. But my God, in the ground, it's so bad. It's such a bad experience. And like, even to an extent, like that Palace goal the other week, like, you're celebrating it in the last minute, but like, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, was there any way that could have been offside or a foul or anything like that? Because they might try and don't necessarily try and take it away from you, but there might be something that can take it away from you. And like, to sort of be stood there and to check yourself when football is about those moments and experiencing those moments with people around you. Yeah, I just absolutely despise it. And I think whatever they do with it and whatever changes they make, and however they could get to like 99% of these decisions being right, like that'll always be there at the game now, and it's awful.
It's just not organic anymore, is it?
No.
Like, those moments. The one that, like, still I think is going to get chalked off is the Tarkowski one against Liverpool. Like, moments like that
still now.
Exactly. I think they're still checking it. It's gone to orange or whatever they say nowadays. But I agree, Matt. And obviously, as much as anyone that I spent a lot of time not going to the Everton game, especially obviously at Goodison, and now I'm back at the ground. One, you feel like a tit when you celebrate and then it gets chalked off. Two, you kind of have to start becoming like an expert at like which types of goals definitely won't be chalked off, like penalties.
Or handball now.
It's mad, isn't it?
This is one for another pod, but I think I don't understand why we can't attract the best officials in the world type thing. Why aren't the Premier League? I don't know how much it works with FAs and all that sort of stuff, but why aren't the Premier League able to attract the best officials in the world and go, we want you to officiate our multi-billion-pound game, rather than leaving it to these guys who clearly can't do it and are not up to it? There's probably some rules around it, but I think if you're trying to protect a product and you're trying to ensure that it's the best, then everything needs to be the best.
Even if they got them, though, I still don't think it would like make it any better for me. Like in those moments, like I think some people people go to football for different things. Don't they? Some people go to experience it and they want to see everything right and they want maybe the fair result and to appreciate like technical skill, always go for different reasons. Like for me, it's always been about like those 10 seconds after you score and like the limbs and all that. So this is maybe me speaking personally and from what I want and what I've sort of saw from going the match for, God, over 20 years now. But like it's kind of gone. Like you'd have to pick the ball up from kickoff, run 20 yards forward and bang one in from 35 yards to know that goal's not going to be disallowed for something that happened in a phaser play earlier, or a little foul that happened that you didn't see, or handball and all that kind of thing. It's being a bit extreme with that example there, but it's just always there now in the back of your mind. And like it just got to the point on Sunday where I thought, like, even if this gets given now, like, is right, it's fine, but like it's short. Like the moment's kind of gone. It's passed a little bit, and it's just not quite the same. So,
would you be happy if they did it like in rugby and cricket, where they actually showed you on the big screen what they're doing, and let it play, and then we can all see what everyone's seeing? Or do you think it's better this way because of the way that sort of the boisterousness of the football crowd, it would cause too much of an issue?
Well, I think that's why they won't do it, isn't it? But like, I think it'd probably help a little bit, yeah. But it's still, but again, we're going back again to what we were saying there about like handball and stuff. Like if that Tarkowski handball against Leeds got put up on the big screen earlier in the season, like we'd all be thinking, "Oh, he's right with sound here." And all of a sudden, it's like the penalty gets given, like because the rules are so mad now, and it's just so like seemingly so ambiguous. It's like, no one. Listen. Maybe it's a case of. Well, it's probably not actually. We don't need to really educate ourselves what the rules of the game. Like it should be much more straightforward than that. But it just kills it. It just absolutely killed it for me on Sunday. And like I said, I think you'd have to score like a perfect goal that is objectively, with no issues in it whatsoever for me to really get carried away now. But I'm in my 30s now. Maybe you shouldn't be getting carried away at the football match anyway. But listen, we'll wrap it up there anyway before maybe avoid talking about going to third place Sunderland or wherever they are on Monday night, because I'm not quite ready to face that yet. And we've got loads of other shows coming up this week. But really enjoyed that, lads. Cheers to Adam. Cheers to Jack. That is your weekly show. If you're watching us on YouTube, do hit like, do hit subscribe. Leave us a comment. Let us know your thoughts on the team in the midfield. Craig Pawson. I'm sure there'll be plenty of people who are very much in agreement with Jack on that. And on VAR as well, and how you found it in the ground, and certainly with that goal in inverted commas on Sunday. You can listen to us on Spotify and iTunes as well. If you're listening on there right now, you can leave us a rating and leave us a review. And yeah, we've had loads of stuff out already this week with Instant Reaction on Sunday. We have Blue Monday on Monday and Byline with Paddy Boylan and I on Tuesday. And yeah, loads more to come this week. Weekend preview. We've got Mailbag and we'll have Instant Reaction on Monday as well. So keep it with the Blue Room. Up the toffees. We'll speak to you again soon.